this puppy. All right, so, and there's a twist in the story that we didn't quite see coming until literally today. So Landy sat down with the Athletic yesterday. This is new, okay? And did a one-on-one interview about where he's at in his rehab and also to promote something, okay? What he's promoting, we'll get to here in just a couple minutes. All right, so first let's go over what we learned here. So there's a bunch of really interesting quotes from the captain here. And he said he's talking about, trying to come back from this devastating injury. And he says, here I am, 32 years old, really wanting to play hockey and really wanting to continue to see where I can take this thing. I think that's maybe where we are in terms of this whole thing. How far can I push it? How good can I get it? And I understand I'm probably not going to skate completely pain-free again. But I want to be able to get to a point where I can at least manage it and then make a decision for myself and see where we end up. End quote. There's a lot there, but I'll say, Phil, this sounds like a quote that maybe we would have heard a year ago and not at this point.
Yeah.
Where he's, and it's almost disturbing where he's freely admitting, I probably am not going to be able to skate completely pain-free again, but I want to get to a point where I can manage it. Man, I just, obviously, I naturally feel bad for Landeskog as a person.
Yeah, because it's not his fault. Injuries suck. Injuries suck, and it's not his fault that he's dealing with this severe injury.
Yeah. But, man,
Are you surprised, though? Like, no matter what kind of injury you have, Zach, and our listeners, anytime you go under the knife or have to get something worked on, you're never going to be the same. I messed my wrist up. I shattered the bone. I tore the ligaments. They put it back together. It took 3 hours. They actually had to wake me up and put me back under because they had to piece every little bone together in the wrist. And the wrist is real, like the bones are just really, really little. So it was kind of scary. My parents were scared.
Yeah.
And then you had to redo the ligament. I'll never have the flexibility or the strength I used to have before the injury. And the scar tissue's there, and it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to deteriorate, right? It's going to continue to get worse. That's just because of injuries. That's when you go under the knife, go into a surgery, that happens for you. And so for Gabe, it's not going to get any better for him. So although he may be able to skate around, he will always feel pain. I feel pain all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, truly. But you get used to it, and it is what it is. And if you want to keep playing, you're going to have to find ways to deal with the pain. And that's something that Landy's going to have to probably deal with if he decides to keep playing.
Well, I hate it for Landy when you're admitting I'm probably never going to skate pain-free again, but you're still actively trying to come back and experience that pain. It's just, man.
Hockey player, baby.
A part of me, no, and he's tougher. I mean, dude, this dude he's got a grit that's very sandpaper, all right? That's not to be questioned here. I just, man, we're years out of this thing, and he's still trying to figure out, where he's going to be in this thing and how he can manage it to get to a point where he's doing exactly that, managing it. And he went on to say, quote, "For the longest time, I said, I'd rather have a Stanley Cup ring and a bleeped up knee than a healthy knee and no Stanley Cup ring. And I meant that. I still wouldn't change the fact that I did what I did for us to reach the ultimate goal in hockey. But I would like to have both if I can." End quote. And the dude, as frustrated as the situation can be, we have to remember in that moment, like if you told, it's one of these things we talk about, like we did this with Bo Nix or Sam, quarterback for the Rams.
Matthew Stafford.
Matthew Stafford, just a week or two ago when he was being made available. We did the little hypothetical, and we've done this with other things. Like, hey, if you were to win a Super Bowl, would you be okay with sucking, 5 years after that?
Yeah.
Would you okay with sucking 10 years straight to win a Super Bowl? We have to go back to the moment where Landy was putting it all on the line to win the cup. and the subsequent years after have been extremely frustrated. I've been frustrated. Avs Faithful has been frustrated. You've been frustrated. But we have to remind ourselves what he did to bring that puppy across the finish line.
What it felt like, that he sacrificed his body and his future for the cup and for the fans and for all of us to be excited about having a championship here in Colorado again. And then 3 years go by and that feeling goes away and you want more because we're human beings and we're stingy and we're greedy. And now, like you said, we get frustrated because of what Landeskog is going through, what Gabe is going through. You're right, Zach.
Well, Landy is now apparently journaling regularly, and he's also going to therapy. And we're about to learn just how bad here, and we'll get to why we're going to learn that here in just a second. But like from a mental standpoint, Landy has been through the absolute ringer to the point where journaling and going to see a therapist, it's been hard. And he said, talking about journaling and going to therapy, he said, and of course, I'm not talking about physical therapy. I'm talking about literally talking to a therapist about what he's going through. He said, quote, I didn't know what to expect, but now it's been a huge relief for me and something I really enjoy doing, getting things off my chest. I found a person that's been super helpful to me, and that's been a big help dealing with the uncertainty and dealing with the thoughts and the feelings, end quote.
Wow, man. That's deep. Truly is. Because it's like we're looking at Gabe as this hockey player, this great hockey player, not knowing and understanding what he's truly going through as a person and how much this is affecting him. And when he sees something on Twitter about retire and people going at him because –
and that's me, by the way.
Well, that's all of us.
I'm raising my hand
because
I do think Gabe needs to retire, but it's tough when you're actually hearing the guy go through it.
And I think that this is great that Gabe is doing what he's doing, that we're learning a little bit more about what's going on with Gabe and what he's doing and what he has to do to cope with certain things. Because now it puts us in a situation where, like, he's human.
Yep. It does humanize him, yeah.
Wow, man.
Here's a little bit more of what we learned from this article from The Athletic. This was on rehabbing the injury without the certainty that he'll ever be back. Landy said, quote, I've decided to see this thing through, no matter how long it takes. At the end of the day, I started it, and I plan on finishing it, end quote. So for someone like me that wants a resolution to this story after years, all right, it doesn't sound like the resolution's coming anytime soon, where Landeskog says, I've decided to see this thing through no matter how long it takes.
He's not retiring.
Man, this thing could hover over the franchise for another year. And that may be what's best for Gabe Landeskog. I just don't believe that's what's best for the Colorado Avalanche. And those two things live in the same universe, and I hate that they do. But that's the real from my interpretation of this thing.
No doubt. When you're on the outside looking in, this is not good for the organization because of the money that Gabe is holding on to and that he has the C on his chest. But what if Gabe gives up the C, Zach? What if Gabe said, you know what, I know that I'm not going to be back anytime soon and I'm going to go at this hard, but I can't tell you guys exactly when I'm coming back, but I'm willing to give up the C because a guy that needs to be wearing a C is a guy that's out there with his guys on that ice.
That should be the case. It shouldn't be 3 seasons without your captain out there.
Would that change things for you?
It would to a degree, but the more tangible thing is, and I know he's on long-term injured reserve, and they're able to use his money while he's on the shelf.
Yeah.
But if you still have this big picture question hanging over the organization, it prevents you from doing something meaningful long-term financially. Because if they really believe that he could be coming back next year, it may prevent them from doing a big boy move. And I understand you're able to piecemeal it and you have his finances, but big picture, meaningful decisions, Gabe's sideline self still impacts that in a really big way. And so we'll keep going here. We'll keep going. We're talking about Gabe Landeskog's one-on-one interview with The Athletic and the twist in this story that we didn't see coming until today, which we'll get to here in just a second. he said, at the end of the day, I started it. I plan on finishing it. And then when asked, what does finishing it mean? Gabe said, quote, I used to think the only way this is ending is if I come back and finish my contract and have a great finish to my career, and I can play pain-free and be the player, if not better, than I was pre-injury. I've come to realize through a lot of work and deep reflection that the fact that I'm still going at this thing, the fact that I'm still doing this, I've already sort of won in a way. But I want hockey. I want it in my life. I love it. It's something I really enjoy working at and feeling like I'm improving at something. Small details of the game, picking those apart, the tactical parts of the game. I miss that, and I really enjoy that. That's why I think I keep doing this. I want it in my life, and I continue striving for it, end quote. There's a lot there.
A lot.
There's a lot there. But when he sequences from, I used to think the only way that this was going to finish is me coming back and playing for the Avs, but through deep reflection, the fact that I'm still working at it, I've actually won. I love Landy. I don't like it for the Avs. It's just another thing because it feels like he's resigned to maybe not coming back. And I know he jumped in and said, I know, but I still want hockey and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But when you shift that, what does finishing it mean? And you're transitioning from coming back as a player to I'm actually winning right now because I'm still going at this.
Well, psychologically, that he is. Because he's doing what a lot of people don't want him to do. Keep going. Not everybody, a lot of people want him to retire. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to keep going. He wants to keep pushing himself until he figures out if he can do this or he cannot.
But at what point he hasn't practiced, let alone play in a game? He hasn't practiced in years. At what point does it crystallize like,
I do
this
agree
isn't
with that.
working?
I agree. Like, this is a unique situation, Zach, because if this is an NFL team, if this is an NBA team, if this is another hockey team, I don't think that you're going to give Landy that grace that the Colorado Avalanche are giving him.
No.
You had Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
That was with the Indianapolis Colts for a long time in his career. At the end of it, when he was banged up, they cut him. We're talking about Peyton Manning here, Hall of Famer, one of the best to do it. That's how the Denver Broncos were able to get Peyton Manning because the Indianapolis Colts let him go.
Yeah.
If you're able to let someone like that go, then you're telling everybody out there that you're not bigger than the game and that you're only as good as your last game. And if we feel like you're done and you can't bring nothing to the table anymore, then it's time for you to move on. And that's why this is a unique situation here with the Avs, because it's like, you guys know deep down inside, Gabe might not be back. And if he is, he's not going to be the same one that won the cup for you. So why do you keep holding on to this dream or holding on and letting him dream and think that this is going to be the case and he's going to be able to be here as long as he wants? Because it is hurting the organization at some point.
At some point. And someone on the RamosLaw.com text line says the Avs have made significant moves. They've extended McKinnon, McCarr, and Tays. How is it preventing future moves? Yes, you're able. I'm not saying you're not able to do something, but you know what you can't do if you think Landy's coming back? Is sign someone to an 8-year, $56 million contract. That's Gabe's contract. 8 years, 56 M's. So, like, I'm not saying your hands are cut off from doing anything. But if you think he's coming back and his payroll's coming back on the books, you can't also do that. To sign someone else to a deal akin to Landy's. So it's
or you got to go into the offseason knowing that, hey, these 4 dudes or these 3 dudes, if Landy does come back, we're gonna have to cut him. That's not a great game plan.
It's not. So let's get to the twist in this story here. So we found this out today in this article from The Athletic that Landeskog, and I'm reading right from the piece here from The Athletic, Landeskog has documented his recovery. And he finally feels ready to publicly share what it's looked like. Introducing A Clean Sheet, a docuseries taking viewers through the aftermath of the surgery. Phil, it's going to air on TNT starting on Sunday. And TNT's Craig Berry says the series reveals, quote, vulnerability and raw emotions rarely shown by pro athletes. It consists of 5 episodes the last of which will run April 13th. Landeskog is the executive producer for a docuseries that's about to come out detailing, according to The Athletic, documenting the recovery. The problem is he's not recovered. So this is going to be really interesting here. You talk about a peek behind the curtain. This is
what everybody wanted.
This is going to be really, really interesting. And apparently he got this idea for this project after stumbling across the tennis player Andy Murray's documentary called Resurfacing, which focuses on the tennis star's injury journey from like 2017 to 19.
Are you excited for it?
I am. Yeah, you can say I'm excited. I am deeply interested is how I would say it.
All right.
But I think it's interesting that you're doing a docuseries on your recovery when you're not close to recovered. And he was already a part of a separate documentary on, do you guys remember what platform that was on? Was that, what was it called? Face Off? What was it? Or Amazon Prime. So he's involved in this other documentary, which he's featured on, but now he's launching his own about his recovery, but he's not recovered. And it's just.
So then why do it? If you're not recovered, why do it? I'm interested. And honestly, as a kid, and when I blew my knee out, I was thankful that Adrian Peterson had a documentary on his recovery to ACL tear, where that next year after the ACL tear, he went for over 2,000 yards rushing. Because that gave me hope, a young kid like me hope that I can do it. And I didn't have the money, I didn't have the rehab, but I used to watch it every day just for motivation. And maybe that can help some kid out there that's dealing with something like Gabe's injury. And also, I'm just interested to see where Gabe is at.
Me too.
As a human being.
Me too. Because I've been a fan of Landy the player, but also Landy has represented something more to the Avs and more to the state of Colorado and the surrounding region than just a player. This guy's the longest tenured athlete in Denver sports. He's had the captainship for the Avs since he was 19 years old.
That's a bad boy.
But it's one of these things where I think ideally you'd want to release this as you're coming back. This documentary that inspired him about, Andy Murray. Andy Murray came back. Andy Murray was, beat top 10 tennis players after coming back. And I think that this was initially shot with the idea that he's coming back.
Yeah.
But if you don't know if you're ever coming back, you might as well just release it whenever you want.
Well, that's why we're going to watch. That's why we're fixing to find out, Zach. Maybe he's further along than we think. And it's a surprise. Sunday, we're all going to see.
Do you want to hear the trailer?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a piece of audio. It's just under 2 minutes. It's a little bit longer than we would normally play. But this is the trailer for Gabe Landeskog's documentary that is debuting on Sunday night on TNT.
Okay, so where does this story begin?
How did we get here? Complete freak accident.
Potentially that could be a cut on the right leg.
Slices my quad like it's a warm knife through butter.
That's a real cause for concern.
Never had my leg cut before by a skate, but it felt like.
Let me just say this real quick before I continue. They show the wound. Dude, it is
gruesome.
Nasty. Sorry.
It wasn't just superficial cut. August, September of 2021, the cut itself had healed. The knee really starts to bother me now. It just becomes something that has to be managed through that entire first half of that season. You're good enough to play, you're good enough to play. It's the way it is. You fast forward, start realizing, well, we are in the Stanley Cup Finals now. That a whole day, it's going in slow motion.
3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second.
The buzzer finally sounds. Pandemonium just ensues.
It's over. They did it. The Colorado Avalanche are Stanley Cup champions.
All of a sudden, the partying kind of stops. Reality sets in. My knee's messed up, but I never connected the two dots that was related to the cut. Anxiety starts setting in.
Avalanche captain Gabe Landeskog needing more surgery.
Your head hits that pillow at night. You're left with some pretty deep, dark questions.
I think that's why the injury was so hard for him, because he's only really ever identified as a hockey player.
Peter, do they love and admire Gabe Landeskog? Oh my God.
Okay, so Gabe Landeskog, he's a first-rounder, youngest captain in the league at the time. He has an Olympic medal, but this surgery, will we ever see him play again?
I'm a 30-year-old pro athlete, but I can't chase my kids. Nobody has come back from this surgery in this sport and had a successful, productive career. My mind is unraveling.
All right, I'm in.
I know.
I'm in. I think this is going to be super fascinating. And here's what I think is going to happen. This documentary is going to air. It is going to totally humanize Gabe Landeskog.
Yeah.
The entire community that is Avs faithful is going to fall back in love with the captain, Gabe Landeskog. And it's not going to mean anything meaningful, big picture to the Avs. And I think both of these things it's going to happen because, dude, this thing's going to tug at our heartstrings. And
for sure.
You're going to be sympathetic.
Well, everybody's going to be like, give Gabe time. Let Gabe have his time. And like you said, it's not going to. It probably will not change the way things are going for this organization.
Probably not. And then there's this. Someone says, and I've seen this out there, hey, here's a concept for you guys. That doc is going to drop, and the last episode is on April 10th. The Avs start the playoffs on April 19th. Maybe that's him saying his recovery is over and he's ready to come back for the playoffs. If that happens, this is the greatest coup of all time and the biggest secret that has been kept in the history of Denver sports. But I'll believe that when I see it. But I am fascinated with this story. Here we go. Drew, any thought there behind the glass? You've been listening to this conversation for 24 minutes. There's so many layers to this story here.
There are. And reading that article this morning just kind of, it makes me just kind of feel bad because, as I've said many times before, I closed the door on Gabe a long, long time ago, basically since day one. But you hear this stuff and it just like pulls at like the human element of it. It pulls at your heartstrings. It makes you want so badly for him to be able to get through this and come back because you know what it means to him. And it'd just be an awesome, awesome comeback story if he was able to just do it and come back for a season or half a season or heck, just a playoff run. It just sucks because I just don't think it's ever going to happen. And
me either. So like, how does this documentary end?
I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. The fact that like you're doing this now and you're leading up to the playoffs and
yeah.
Now I'll say this: there was rumors that Brady's documentary was supposed to end with him retiring. And it was the best kept secret. And it was what that it was called Man in the Arena.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to end the last episode. He was supposed to retire, but the secret got out, and Adam Schefter reported it, and Brady was furious. Brady was furious, and some speculate that it prompted him to come back when he didn't want to, because he wanted to go out on his terms. This whole thing is, it's fascinating. I just don't know how meaningful it actually is to the Colorado Avalanche. It is. The Avs have had a lot of drama in recent years. They have. For a hockey team, it's a lot. It's a lot. All right, a new